I've simulated the next 250 years in FM24. What could possibly go wrong? Well, for a start, Luton are still in the Premier League and they're still playing at an undeveloped Kenilworth Road. The year is 2273 and they are playing in an 11,300 all-seater stadium, of which they only use 10,900 in normal matches, that was built in 1905. That's nearly 350 years ago, and presumably you still have to go through everybody else's garden to get into it. There's an argument that that's not even the weirdest thing going on in the Premier League, though. Newcastle are absolutely dominating it. If we look through the past winners of the Premier League, you can see it is very much Newcastle's world and everybody else is just living in it. They've won most of the last 50 or so Premier League titles. There was a period of Manchester City dominance, but another period, a strong period of Newcastle dominance there. It's almost as if the teams that have the big money at the start seem to be doing okay forever. If we look at the records, Newcastle have now won the Premier League a record 103 times over the course of the save, which is bonkers. The rest of the Premier League, less predictable. It's not just about the money. You've got Newcastle there, Manchester City there, but the rest of the Champions League qualification spots go to Eastleigh, Woking, Preston and Barnsley, with the aforementioned Luton getting into the Europa League, Villa also in the Europa League, and Salford, who are actually the biggest team in Manchester, at least this season. Salford finishing 10th, Manchester City 11th. No sign at all of Manchester United in this version of the Premier League, and Liverpool, as you can see, getting relegated from the Premier League in 250 years' time. If we drop down into the Championship, we are now officially hunting Manchester United, amongst others. Plymouth winning the title, with Arsenal coming in as runners-up and Colchester also getting promoted. It really is a bonkers mix of former Premier League clubs, non-league clubs, and the odd weird anomaly like Watford, who presumably have just been in this league for 250 years at this point. Lincoln up here as well. Dartford finishing above Carlisle, Stoke and Port Vale, who all get relegated, but as yet no sign of Manchester United. Huddersfield, Charlton and Kings Lynn getting promoted from League One. If you watched my previous video where we went 100 years in the future, in this same save file, Kings Lynn were actually a Premier League team. They'd done really well in 100 years, and clearly the last 150 has been slightly less kind to them. We're still hunting any... there you go, there's Manchester United, 19th in League Two, finishing just above Bolton, and MK Dons, Grimsby, Slough and Torquay all getting relegated down into League Two. And I mean, it looks pretty League Two, really. Leyton Orient, Bath, Burton and Walsall, the teams getting promoted. Southampton and Hereford relegated. But actually, you know what? It's not the weirdest League Two I've ever seen in one of these Simming into the Future series things. Spurs being down here is a bit of a surprise, mainly because in the 100 years in the future, when they were down in non-league, Leicester also in League Two as well. So who of the big teams are we missing at the moment? I feel like there's still going to be some surprises. That upsets me as a Peterborough fan, seeing us down in non-league, although we have won a title. So that's nice to see. West Ham finishing runners-up, with Blackburn knocking around and about the place as well. There's a current Premier League team down in non-league, Sheffield United. Are they the biggest fallers? Fulham. Chelsea have been relegated from the National League in 250 years' time. It has all gone wrong for Chelsea, and they are now going to be playing in the National League South next season. Wowzers. And then if we have a look at the National League North, Coventry winning that, with Solihull Moors going up with Burnley. There you go. Chelsea, not even the most pathetic of the current Premier League contingent. Nottingham Forest now taking the title off of Burnley. Is there anyone who's currently in the Premier League doing worse than Nottingham Forest? Let's check the National League South as well. Of course, let me know down in the comments section if there's any current Premier League teams that I've completely missed because they've fallen out of the league structure entirely. I don't think I've missed anybody. But I think hashtag United only took them 250 years to make it up to the National League South. Spencer will be absolutely delighted with that. To be fair, they've bobbled between the National League South and the regional leagues for most of the last 100 years. But again, probably not what hashtag had in mind when they were formed. If you're enjoying this kind of video, I want to be able to have a crack at doing your own in FM24. The game is available now. It's on early access and you can pre-order using discount code LOLLUJO at Fanatical. Gets you the game for less than it costs you directly from Steam or Epic and supports the channel as well. The link is at the top of the description. It's discount code LOLLUJO. Go do it. If you haven't, thank you to those who have done it. The rest of you, go and do it. This game's really good. So heading back up to the Premier League, just really to have a little look where the competition reputations currently stand. So Ligue 1 in France, the second most reputable league, followed by the Bundesliga, the Scottish Premiership, Portugal in the top 5. What I'm noticing is there's no Italy at all in the top 8. I'm not quite sure what's happened to Italy. Let's go and find out, shall we? Oh, I pressed the E button a few too many times there. Serie A is the 31st most reputable league in Europe. Less reputable than the Gibraltar Football League and the Sports Direct Premiership in Northern Ireland. What on earth has gone wrong in Italy? That is bonkers. I mean, Cremonese winning it. Let's have a look. Flick through. I mean, I don't really know. They're all familiar looking teams, but the reputation of the competition has just absolutely plummeted. And that is a pretty sorry state of affairs for Italian football. How does the Italian national team get on? So Italy ranked 35th in the world rankings, which actually puts the league pretty much in line with the national team. And they've not won a World Cup throughout this 250 years of simming. They did finish runners up in 2086, third place in 2214, so about 60 years ago. And they have won the one European championship. Italian football has absolutely collapsed. Serves them right for beating England in the final of the Euros, doesn't it, really? So if we have a quick flick through the others of the major leagues, we've got Ligue 1, which Paris Saint-Germain do not compete very well in. Brest, double-breasted? People said I should have done a Brest joke. I'm not going to do a smutty Brest joke. I'll joke about suits and say that's a double-breasted Ligue 1. We've got lots of French teams winning it, believe it or not, over the course of the last... When was the last time Paris Saint-Germain actually won it? Paris Saint-Germain are finished, aren't they? Let's... It does confuse me that with Paris Saint-Germain not winning a Champions League since 2095, they've not won a Ligue 1 since 2186. So it's, 80, 90 years since they've won the French league. It is surprising that the reputation of the French league is the second biggest one. So I guess the likes of Brest are now major European competition. We'll have a look when we look at the European competitions in a second. Let's check the Bundesliga. Bundesliga being won by Firth, who there is weird stuff going on in the Bundesliga. This was noticed in the comments of the previous one, the 100 years in the future, that the Bundesliga seems like there's some weird things going on because the team that's winning it is on 54 points. The top scorer in the entire league has 5 goals. How does the top scorer in the league only have 5 goals? Is it just not recorded? It's because a lot of them... Okay, I understand. It's because a lot of the teams have got greyed out players throughout them. I don't know why. I don't know why the Bundesliga has disappeared into a land of greyed out players. But for some reason, it has. It's a beta. Football Manager is in beta. There's going to be the odd glitchy thing like this. And it looks like, for whatever reason, the Bundesliga has glitched out when it comes to the actual player record stuff. So take it all with a pinch of salt. What we do have, I mean, it's still simulating who's winning it. And Bayern Munich are still not. So there is still that. The record winners, now it's still Bayern with 70 wins, but... I mean, they do share the league titles around a lot here in Germany as well, but what a weird situation. I don't know why just the one league would glitch. That being said, Celtic have glitched their way to the top of the Scottish Premiership again after not winning it forever. I mean, it's very much been Arbroath all the way. Lots of Arbroath. Before that, it was a long period of dominance for Edinburgh City. They're definitely the big two now, Edinburgh City and Arbroath. But Celtic winning a first title in 20 odd years. It doesn't look like they've added a lot. They've now won it 66 times, but I mean, what's that? 10 maybe in 250 years since we've been simming this. I guess we should probably check in on Rangers as well, or else the Scottish people will get very angry. They're not in the Premiership. They are not in the Championship. Rangers are here. Rangers are down in League One, and yeah. They've not had a very nice time at all, have they? Actually, I think they've probably won more Scottish Premierships over the course of this save, but they haven't won it for 200 years. And they finished on 69, so that's one behind Celtic, I think, isn't it? The record holders now, not for League One. We want the record holder for. Yeah, we don't want Rangers' record. We want the league. We want to go back up to the Premiership and see who's won it the most times. It is now Arbroath with 71 wins and now the most successful team in the history of Scottish football. Your fifth most reputable league is Portugal. I don't have Portugal loaded at all. So, I mean, it's simulated lots of Porto. Really lots of Porto. But the other one that I do have loaded for simulation is the Spanish First Division, La Liga, and it looks very much like La Liga is all about Barcelona and Real Madrid. 250 years later, not much changes. Barcelona have dominated for a long time. Mirandes did all right for a few years here and there, and Real Madrid have had their periods of dominance as well. I suspect most times winners, Barcelona, 147 times La Liga winners now. And then we get to the Champions League and see that SJK of Finland have won the Champions League the last 4 years in a row. The previous non-Finnish team to win it were Peterhead, and Barcelona have picked up a few as well. Newcastle, of course, we've seen have been dominant in the Premier League. I've got a few Champions Leagues as well. Peterhead have had a lovely old time picking up some Champions League. 7 times Champions League winners for Peterhead, and all 7 of them have been in the last 30 years in game. So they are very much having a little bit of a purple patch to be a very dominant force in European football. Edinburgh City have won a few as well. They've got 4 Champions Leagues, again, all relatively recent. How many Champions Leagues have Newcastle won? Newcastle 33 times Champions League winners to go with their 103 Premier League titles. Newcastle very much enjoying life in this universe. There's not as many weird teams winning it as I would expect, he says, with the last 5 all being quite weird. But to see Barcelona and Newcastle and Manchester City still up there, Porto, Galatasaray, there's some existing big clubs still seem to be dominating the Champions League, although you do get the odd exception here and there. Let's check the Europa League, because Europa League is where things sometimes get a little bit fruity, although it has been won most recently by Barcelona. Barcelona just ruining everything for everybody. But then we've got lots of French teams. Mirandes. Who on earth are Mirandes, by the way? I'm no expert on Spanish football. They have now won La Liga 14 times, though, and 2 Europa Leagues. What league do they play in real life? Let's go all the way down here and try and find real life. So in real life, they are in the 2nd division. Yeah. So they're in the 2nd division. They're doing all right. They've got a nice future ahead of them. Who does it tell us on here? Who's the most time winners? Most time winners of the Europa League now is Bournemouth. Did we check that for the Champions League? Most time winners is Manchester City with 34. And then for the Conference League, most times winners is Sandhausen of Germany. Your guess is as good as mine. They've won the Bundesliga 6 times and the Conference League 5 times, presumably with no playable players. But if we jump back into the Conference League, which is here, just so we can see the past winners, see if there's anything else weird going on. An actual Viking won it. Manchester City win some European trophies, don't they? So 34 Champions Leagues, 88 Premier Leagues, 43 FA Cups, 4 Europa Leagues, and 2 Conference Leagues. Apparently the Conference League less reputable than the Sky Bet Championship. I think this is an order of reputation that it shows on here, which would mean the FA Cup is bigger than the Europa League. Is that a thing? Let me know in the comments. Is the Europa League less prestigious than the FA? It probably is, isn't it? They've won the EFL trophy 25 times, which presumably is all their under-21s teams, unless they had a period a long period over the course of 200 odd years where they were down in the bottom two divisions in England, which I don't think happened. And then, of course, we have the World Cup next hosted by Indonesia and Malaysia. So good to see that they're sharing the hosting around. Frustrating to see that they're still doing this stupid split nation hosting thing 250 years into the future. If we can see the past winners, we can see England have won the last couple. The hosts, I mean, we've had, okay, it's largely been fairly normal hosts. England and Scotland hosting one together there that was then won by Brazil. Scotland getting into the final of the World Cup that they hosted. Have they managed to win one at any point? They have. They won a World Cup in 2154. We already know from 100 years in the future, Wales have at least one win. In fact, they've got another one in there as well. So Wales have now won the World Cup. Oh, it is just the once. I thought they won it. It was a Euros that they won on 100 years into the future. But England are just, I mean, it's the biggest league in the world. And because it's the biggest league in the world, it's one of the better national teams. 13 World Cup wins, 12 European Championships wins. Presumably, that is the record. No, that's England. Can we get to the actual World Cup and see what the record is? Most times winners is England with 13 wins now, which is madness. Does that? No, I was hoping that would take us straight to the Euros. It doesn't. So European Championship, most recently won by Belgium. In fact, they've won the last couple. Again, I mean, it looks like a fairly standard distribution that you would expect of previous winners. Most times winners is Spain with 18. 18 times Spain have won the Euros. How many World Cups do they have now? 12 World Cups, 18 Euros. Spain also pretty good, believe it or not. And that brings us to the end of our little tour around Football Manager 250 years in the future. I've tried to pick up the pace a little bit on this one. The first video, I think, was probably a little bit too long. We are planning on doing 500 years in the future and 1,000 years in the future as well. When I've released them all, I will release the save files so you can have a nose around in them as well. But if you've got anything that you noticed that I didn't, that you think I should have done, let me know down in the comments section. And also, if you've got something you particularly want to know, a club you're hunting for, ask the question and I'll probably find the answer at some point. If not, I'll just send the save file. But if you enjoyed that video and if you like this kind of content, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me to let me know you're enjoying it and let YouTube know you're enjoying it so they keep pushing it out to more and more people. Subscribe to the channel and turn your notifications on so you don't miss out on 500 and 1,000. Of course, all the other Football Manager 2024 content we've got pouring your way at the moment. We're doing 2 videos a day on this channel. We've got the second channel. We've got Twitch. There's so much content. Go find it all. Links to everything down in the description below. And thank you very much for watching.